The following story has been brought to you by StoriesToInspire.org.
I want to share with you a crazy, massive story, even though I was not planning on saying it, but I'll say it because I'm in the mood, that I literally just heard last week. Crazy story about the power of arranging classes of Torah. But when I say it's a crazy story, be ready. It really is like holy moly, I like to say. Tremendous lesson to be learned from a regular Jew, a Pashut Jew from Eretz Yisrael. This story was said over by Reb Chaim Zaid, very famous rabbi in Israel. He has all the Emunah stories. For some reason, he has all the Bitochen Emunah stories that happened to him. Hashem must love him. One of the stories he said last week was like this. There's a person in a city in Eretz Yisrael called Rishon LeZion. You guys have heard of Rishon LeZion? Any Israelis here? Only Persians? Rishon LeZion? That's where my uncle lives, okay? It's good for you guys to know that. Remember, my uncle lives in Rishon LeZion, for those that care. So basically, this person from that city, his name was David Azulai. Not David, he was a Sephardi. David Azulai, Israeli guy, David Azulai. In Israel, their July 4th is Yom HaAtzmaut. Yom HaAtzmaut, there's no work. Nobody works. So what do? They arrange classes across the country. So shuls bring rabbis one after the next, speeches one after the next. And a lot of rabbis drive around to give speeches because nobody is working. So what does everybody else do? Learn Torah. There's one shul that every year when they do this learning program of classes of rabbis on Yom HaAtzmaut on July 4th, they have around 600 people that show up to the lectures. 600 people. Last year, when they had Yom HaAtzmaut, it's in May, the Gabbai of the shul announced, this year we're not having the day of Torah on Yom HaAtzmaut. We're going to have to cancel. Why? Because now we had to do shiputzim, which means they had to do construction and build the shul. And the Gabbai of the shul had to fundraise money from everybody in the shul, and the kehillah, had to fundraise money for them to build and extend the shul, the construction. So they don't have funds now to pay the rabbis and pay the food, because when they make lectures, they bring shawarma, there's falafel, barbecue, drinks. They make it a very fun situation. And the way the rabbi said, it costs them around 45,000 shkalim. 45,000 shkalim for that event to host 600 people. So that year the Gabbai said, it's not happening. We don't have the funds. One of the people in the shul, his name is David Azulai. This David Azulai goes over to the Gabbai and he says, how can you cancel an event of Torah of 600 people? You know how much Torah we're going to lose? How can you cancel? He tells them, listen, you have 45,000 shekel to spare? If you do, go ahead. I can't do it. I already funded the money for the construction. We don't have money for this year's event. He says, you know what? I'm going to get it done. That's what David Azulai said. I'm going to get it done. He's like, okay, get it done. Listen what this guy does. He goes, he puts up a sign on his car for sale. This guy, David Azulai, decides to sell his car, and whatever comes in from the money, he's going to use that money to pay for the event. He puts his car for sale. Regular guy. Just for what? For classes of Torah. Look at this Mesirut Nefesh. He sells his car, and his car actually gets sold. He gets the funds. He takes the cash. He goes to the Gabbai, and he tells him, here, look, I have the money. The Gabbai was so nitpa'el. He was shocked. He was fascinated. How did you do it? He says, very pashut. I sold my car. You sold your car for this? He's like, yes. How are you going to get around? Buses, my wife, whatever. You sold your car for classes of Torah. Meanwhile, this guy, this David Azulai, listen to what happens. He works for a high-tech company in Tel Aviv. Israelis are very into high-tech. They call it high-tech. He's very into that. So he works at one of the firms over there. The boss, the rumor started getting around about how one of his employees, David Azulai, sold his car for classes of Torah. So the boss heard about it. What happened was, the day that he heard about it, listen to this. He gets a call from somebody from Chutz La'aretz, from out of Eretz Yisrael. They didn't say which country, but outside of Israel. He calls up this guy who owns the firm of the high-tech, and he tells him, listen, we have a leasing car company out of Israel. We are looking to invest in the state of Israel to bring our cars, to start leasing cars in the country. We heard of you. We know who you are. You're a very professional guy. You have a very big CEO of a big company. Would you know of any people that will be good agents to go around and building up more leasing firms in your country? And whoever you get us, will get a brand new Audi. A brand new Audi. You hear this? What year are we up to? 2022. So this guy, David Azoulay, the boss decides, the same thing that he heard, that he gave up his car for Torah, that same day he gets a call from Chutz La'aretz, from overseas. I'm willing to give you whatever employee you give me, as long as he's good. I'll give you a free car for that employee to go around and do what it takes to build my company in Eretz Yisrael in Israel. The boss right away calls into his office, who? David Azoulay. He comes to his boss, and his boss tells him, listen, I was so impressed by how you had the will to sell a car for Torah. But look what happens. Literally today I get a call that somebody wants to give away a free car for whoever works hard for this firm. Although you're a very good worker for me, I am willing to give you this position, this new job. I'm going to hook you up with this guy. I'm going to tell him you're the best guy ever. You'll do a great job. And you're going to get a free Audi. You hear this? A free Audi. This guy sold his car. What does Hashem give him right back? A car. Now what's the lesson from the story? This just happened. Regular Jew. Doesn't learn all day necessarily. Not a big Rosh Yeshiva necessarily. A Jew that wants to do Ratzon Hashem, the will of Hashem. And he would even put his car on the line for it. It's a big deal, by the way. For Israelis, car is a big deal. It's a very, very big deal. He gave away his car for Torah. So you know what it means to arrange Shiurei Torah? It's a tremendous, tremendous zechut. But what's the lesson to learn from the story? I think the lesson is, not that he got his car, a brand new Audi. The lesson is that how a Jew is willing to give up so much just for a class of Torah, for Divrei Torah. Has a tremendous effect in Shamayim. Every limud Torah, when you cause other people to learn, has a tremendous, tremendous effect in Shamayim. If we would have the right glasses to see how much Kedusha that we have right here in this room, how much mitzvot are happening right here, we'll never stop learning. A person will never stop learning Torah. Never stop doing mitzvot if you had the right glasses, the right vision to see how much you accomplish every moment you learn Torah. The challenge is to know it's happening even though you don't see it. That's exactly where emunah comes. That's where believing in Hashem comes. So every time you arrange a class of Torah, remember, it's no small thing. No small thing. And a person should go out of his way to arrange classes of Torah. That's what we learn from this simple Jew. Look how many zichuyot he has. David Azoulay. Where Americans in New York on a random Wednesday night are saying over his name with his story. You hear this? That's what means every person has a chelik in Torah.
Enjoyed this story? Come again. Bring a friend. StoriesToInspire.org